With those words they set off again. They came to a little place called Montigny, where there was an old Roman theatre. The Romans used this route over the Alps too, explained the angel Epheriel. Much later, Napoleon crossed the Alps with his army. To Bethlehem, called Joshua, and they sped up towards the high mountains. The air was so thin and so clear that Elizabeth had to ask herself if she was on the way to heaven. A few times they saw a mountain hare, a marmot, or an alpine goat. Up in the sky, crows and vultures circled, and now and again a grouse started up from the bushes. At the top of the mountain pass stood a large house. The year is 1045 after Christ, said the angel Epheriel. That house is a hospice. The monks who live here are to look after people who are crossing the Alps. It is brand new and has been built by Bernard of Menthon. At this time, and even in your time, Elizabeth, the Benedictine monks live up here and organize rescue missions for people who get lost in the mountains. They are helped by the clever Saint Bernard dogs. Right, said the cherub Imperial. For Jesus wanted to teach humans to help one another when they were in distress. Once he told a story about a man who was on his way from Jerusalem to Jericho. He was attacked by robbers, who left him half dead at the side of the road. Several priests passed by, but none of them bent down to help the poor man, who was in danger of losing his life. Jesus thought there wasn't much point in their being priests if they couldn't even be bothered to help a fellow human being in distress. They might just as well forget all the pious prayers. Elizabeth nodded, and Imperial continued. But then a Samaritan came along, and Samaritans weren't very popular in Judea. It was because they had a religion that was a little different from that of the Jews. But the Samaritan was compassionate and helped the unfortunate man, so that he survived. Yes, indeed, for there's no sense in believing what's right unless it leads to helping people in distress. Elizabeth nodded again and hid the cherub's words in her heart. At one point, where the path forked and a man was standing with a large sign on his hand, he was wearing a long red tunic. On the sign was written, "To Bethlehem," in capital letters. An arrow had been drawn as well, to show which route they should follow. "A living road sign!" exclaimed Elizabeth. Ephriel nodded. "Verily I say unto you, that road sign must be one of us." Imperial was so excited that he flew right up to the man and shouted at him, "Fear not! Fear not! Fear not!" But the man with the sign was not the least bit afraid. "My name is Quirinius, governor of Syria." Attractive appearance, closer acquaintance desired. Well, the most important thing is, of course, to be good and kind. Dixie! Elizabeth couldn't help laughing. It was as if there were two people talking at once, for he interrupted himself the whole time. He handed her the sign, which she had perhaps been standing and holding for an eternity, with the wind flapping his tunic. He said, "And this, if I may have your attention, my friends, for here I have the icing on the cake, and this prize is for you, Dixie!" "This sign is for me?" said Elizabeth in astonishment. And Quirinius replied, "Only the one side. I mean, you have to turn it around, you understand. Dixie!" Elizabeth didn't understand why he said Dixie all the time. It sounded like the name of a dog or a cat, and there were none in sight. But the angel whispered that Dixie was Latin and meant that Quirinius had finished speaking. Elizabeth turned the sign around and saw to her great surprise that what she was holding in her hand was an advent calendar with 24 doors. Covering all the doors was a picture of a young woman with fair hair. She was standing in front of a church with a large dome on top. The first 12, said Quirinius. I mean, you may open the first 12 doors, for we come exactly that far on our journey. Dixie! She sat down on a rock and opened the first door. Behind it was a picture of a lamb. Behind the next door was an angel, and behind the third a sheep. Then there were pictures of a shepherd, another sheep, a king of the Orient, a sheep, a shepherd, a sheep, a cherub, and another king of the Orient. Elizabeth saw these were pictures of everyone who had joined the pilgrimage on its long way through Europe. But who was the woman? Thank you very much, she said. Quirinius shook his head. On the contrary, you're wrong about that. You don't need to say thank you. I do. I thank you and the others here for allowing an old Roman like myself to join this golden group, which is on the right way to Bethlehem. After all, it was not no, in fact, it was you who set off first after the delightful lamb. Dixie, Dixie, Dixie! Elizabeth looked up at Ethereal and laughed. But you haven't opened the 12th door, said the angel. Elizabeth opened the 12th door, and now she was looking down at the tiny picture of the same calendar she was holding. It was a picture of a fair-haired woman in front of the dome of a big church. Joshua struck his shepherd's crook against a charn. To Bethlehem! To Bethlehem! How far is Bethlehem now? Asked Elizabeth. Not very far, said Ethereal. They sat looking at each other. Then Joachim began to laugh. I hope Quirinius is going all the way to Bethlehem with them, he said. Mamma and Papa examined the thin piece of paper. He's brought the young woman in front of St. Petersburg Square into the story of little Elizabeth today, said Papa. And then he's made a little advent calendar inside the big one, said Mamma. Do you think there's another calendar inside the little advent calendar? Asked Joachim. Who knows? Said Mamma. Who knows? And I agree with her there. Who knows? I love Quirinius, stuff like that, and I just love his character. I just kind of feel like I am that character in a way. Like I stop mid-sentence, I'm like, no wait, that's wrong, because that's how my head works. I start something, I'm like, no wait, I should have thought this through, and then stop, and I'm like, and then I have to say something, and then I have to say like, now I'm done talking. Maybe that's what I should do. I just start saying Dixie when I'm done. Oh, Imperial and Quirinius is just amazing characters. I love them so much. Anyway, that wraps up chapter 12, and we're halfway, guys. Oh my god, so much has happened in 12 chapters, and there's all half left. I hope you understand. Like, that is kind of one of my biggest concerns right now, is that you don't understand what I'm saying when I'm reading. Like, I keep googling words, and to hear, I can probably make, like, at the end, on the 25th, I could probably make, like, a bloopers, just a whole video of me like doing like man and doing bloopers and listening to the way you say stuff, because I had no clue. I spent so much time googling words and I probably get them wrong. Anyway, thank you for listening. If you're still here, I love you all. Good night and goodbye.